Brilliant, 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 brilliant. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Hello, hello, hello. Ah, Venus still not here. She's off vacationing and doesn't have the same connectivity. Well, I guess they're busy doing stuff. So we're still without Venus, but that's all good. It's all good. I wanted to talk about a TV series. Well, may come as a little bit of a surprise. It's not maybe what you'd expect, but I want to talk about Naruto, Naruto Shippuden, right? Now, Naruto, if you at all familiar with anime or animated series, likely you've heard of Naruto or incidentally know the name. It's a long-running series. I think it started in 2007. I'm not sure if it's still going or not. But they're 21 seasons, and each season has like 25 episodes. Right. So there's a lot in it. And I was watching it uh I don't know, like 10 years ago, I guess. More or less, plus or minus. And I got up to roughly season 10, I think. I don't remember exactly where. But I started watching from season 10 yesterday because at the time there were more seasons out, but they hadn't been dubbed yet, and I didn't want to watch it with the subtitles. And then I don't know, stuff happened, and I don't know, it's a lot of stuff in between where I wasn't watching much TV. Yeah, I was making the course and all sorts of stuff. Anyhow, why am I mentioning Naruto? All right, so first let me tell you a little bit about Naruto. And Naruto, it starts off the series, and Naruto is very young. He's a young boy living in the Hidden Leaf Ninja Village, and it's a ninja community, right? There are other ninja villages, but anyway, he's in this, and he's this uh, essentially Naruto when he starts off is the classic lovable knucklehead, right? Knucklehead with a good heart. But it's very cheerful, very positive, very optimistic. Kind of a very unique character, very, very well done. But nonetheless, he's still a knucklehead, right? And he's just ignorant and sort of, you know, a bit foolish, more so than maybe, on average one would expect. But this doesn't matter, right? So he's very intent on being a ninja, and I don't remember. I'm guessing now, uh, so I really don't remember specifically if he was, like meant to be one, but didn't quite qualify. But I know he was very persistent, and eventually does become a ninja. But this is now the story involves lots of mythology and beasts and all sorts of wonderful stuff and the politics of the ninja world and all this. But that's just kind of bonus, at least for me. Yes. What makes this series unique for me is that Naruto evolves. Yes. Ah, wonderful. Hello, hello. You know what? I didn't put my camera on. Sorry, Norma. Sorry, Norma. Hold on a second. I first need to change my background. Um, and then I'll put the camera on. I'm sorry, sorry, sorry. Forgot all about that. I got up very late this morning. I got up essentially half an hour ago. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to choose a little different background just for the fun of it. It just looks like colors, but you'll see when I get up, then it's a little different. All right, all right. Hello, Norma. Hello, Norma. Hello, Norma. You bring me so much joy, Norma. It's just so wonderful being your friend. All right. There we go. Hello, Norma. Hello, Norma. Anyway, so what makes Naruto different? Yes, at least for me. Now, I watch TV very differently, I would suspect, and well, I know from watching with others, right? I'm watching always through that lens of the abstract and the overview perspective and looking at the layers, looking at implications. I enjoy the story part of Naruto, all the ninja stuff and the moves and the law and all the mythology and the beasts and oh man, there's all sorts of wild stuff and then the politics and all this. But what I particularly like about Naruto, well, first of all, when you start watching, you don't know this is going to come, is his character. I mean, he's this lovable knucklehead, but very enthusiastic, very eager, and very earnest at the same time, and also, unbending cheerfulness. So he has unrelenting positivity, right? And this struck me right from the beginning that those are all terms that are in my dictionary of power. Yes, and would be in the dictionary of power of any new noble. Yes, unrelenting positivity, earnestness, eagerness, enthusiasm, right? And he's very dedicated in what he does. He perseveres, he's persistent, etc. Right? Now, he starts off as a knucklehead, but he evolves. Right? He does grow. Now, most TV series that you see, there's very little growth, actual growth in the characters, right? They essentially become tropes, right? And they've got their quirks and their things, but that's what you love about them is all these quirks but they don't really change, right? They may have some experience that, but they don't truly change inside. Yes. So we go through as the series goes, Naruto grows up a little bit. He basically stays young all the time, but he does get to be older, and he goes through like a dark period, right, where he's consumed with hate and all the stuff, right, and he learns from it. And not only does he grow in the normal sense, but he acquires real sophistication of being. Yes, I mean, he acquires patience and discipline and thoroughness and depth of insight. And also he learns to trust himself, right? Which is a very big deal because in the beginning, he's got this nine-tailed beast in him, which comes out, it's like when he's under critical pressure and it helps him in fighting other ninjas and stuff, right? It's a very powerful thing, it's a very big deal. But at first he can't rely on it, right? So he has to go in blind, not knowing into, these challenges, not knowing if this beast will come out or not, right? And he just goes as acts of courage. So he's a fantastic character, but very real also. Not just, that anybody can be this, right? So we have to understand this about Naruto and this evolution, that the evolution is one that is absolutely well done. And the reason I'm, of course, mentioning it here now, because the underlying theme, the underlying core that the series is built around is this evolution of Naruto. Now, it's not made obvious, right? There's lots of drama and stuff happening. You could completely miss this if you just focused on the story part. But if you pay attention, you'll see that moreness in there. Yes. And this is fantastic. And the reason I'm mentioning it is because, of course, this is the exact same path that any aspirant would take. Yes. Naruto is absolutely hell bent on being the best he can be. And, I'm now at season 10, and already his impeccability is there, right? So his best friend, um, Saske, uh, goes bad, becomes a bad ninja, a negative ninja, right? And he went missing for a long time, and Naruto vowed to find him, and the girl that was in love with Sasuke, he promised her he'd bring Sasuke back. And anyway, so he finds Sasuke, and Sasuke, this is his ninja way, this way of hate and negativity, right? Oh, this is like a really big deal now, of course, yeah. Um, and so the Sasuke gets supposedly killed. He's not finally dead because it's very hard to kill people absolutely in this ninja world, right? So there's the girl. What's her name now? Sakura, I think, or something like that. I forget, something with a S. Anyway, he they witness this. And so she has to go back and tell him because he's made this promise to bring him back. And he's absolutely committed to this promise, right? And he doesn't give up on it. And some other ninjas are looking for Sasuke as well. And, he says, well, he knows where he is, but, he doesn't want to give him up. So anyway, so one of the other ninjas, this one ninja girl, she like beats him up and he just like lies there and takes the beating, right? And refusing to give up his friend because that's how he is. Yeah. He's got that deep integrity. Yeah. Anyway, so but here's the point I want to make. So the girlfriend tells now he's in love with the girl too. She comes and tells Naruto that she's in love with him. This is his dream come true. Why is she telling him this? Because she says also, look, your promise to I'm not in love with Sasuke anymore. Sasuke is a jerk. He's gone negative. He's a bad ninja. I want nothing to do with Sasuke. And that part might be true or not. I'm not sure in the story yet. But she's telling this to Naruto. She wants him to let go of his promise of finding Sasuke because it's kind of really messing him up. It's distorting his whole life. This promise to bring Sasuke back. So she's really keen to bring this back on him, and so she tells him she's in love with him. But Naruto, he says, I don't believe you. What kind of trick is this? Yeah. Like, what's going on here? What's up with this? Sorry, I don't buy this. And eh, we don't know yet how much the girl is genuine about this because she's a bit miffed at him for not believing her, right? And gives him a slap as well. What? But this is his impeccability. Doesn't matter that he this is his dream that he's in love with her but he doesn't trust it, right? He doesn't believe it. And this is just fantastic because as much as he wants it, he cannot buy it because he feels something's amiss. Now they don't want to tell him that Sasuke is dead or potentially dead because this might freak him out too, right? So so this is this complex dynamic here, but I'm mentioning it for the impeccability involved. That despite him now getting what his dream, he wants, he's in love with this girl very much. So he's always been in love with her, but she fell for his friend, and he was so happy with that. He accepted that, right? I think there may have been a dark period where that may have been part of the hate for Sasuke, or I don't know if Sasuke did other bad things that he hated him for, or whatever. But I can't remember. I'll have to probably watch the series from start again at some point. But anyway. So this is just that impeccability, and everything he does is is got that underlying understanding or intent of nobleness to it. Right. So this is why I'm bringing up Naruto, and I'm actually going to add Naruto. I'd forgotten about this. Well, I haven't watched the series for like 10 years, so and I'm seeing the evolution now. It's really cool in the series because it's like I started to watch now really a crucial point, right? Because I knew he was looking for Sasuke. It was always about finding. So I'm getting to the key episodes. Well, section of it, series, the season, I should say. It's not it's in this season that this comes to a head now. He finds Sasuke and all this, right? Well, he doesn't actually speak to Sasuke yet, but Sasuke comes into the picture. At any rate, uh, underlying everything that Naruto does is nobility. Yes. Now it's not specifically mentioned in the series, and I mean nobleness, not obviously the hereditary of title and all this, right? Um, I think Naruto's didn't come from a ninja family or something. He was a bit of an outcast when he started, if I remember correctly. Nonetheless, the point I'm making is that Naruto is a noble soul, truly a noble soul, right? And this, when you combine that with his impeccability, which uh, one second, there we go. Now, this is it's innate, organic impeccability and nobility. Impeccability is not mentioned, the word impeccability, but it's demonstrated, it's lived by Naruto. Yeah. Now, and the same thing with nobility. Yes, it's never mentioned, but they all love him because they come to see this in him. Now, like I said, and integrity and all this, the words themselves aren't necessarily used, but he'll say, "I'll never give up on my promise. I stand by my word," and things like that, right? So the end result is that's said and specifically said in very deliberately, right? Especially in that episode there now with the girl, right? Yeah, I'll never give up on my word. I'll always stick by my promises, and he does, and he gets into trouble a little bit because he makes promises that he cannot necessarily keep, right? And this is a big theme. I mentioned this before. Uh, well, I don't know if I mentioned it here or not on the lives, but this came up a big time in our capital R reading. Bina and I, we are doing a capital R reading of Miyamoto Musashi's book of Five Rings, right? It's called A Book of Five Rings or The Book of Five Rings, depending on the translators. But I feel the title should just be Book of Five Rings, right? Or Five Ring Book if you want to actually translate it literally, because the name in Japanese starts with go, and go is five. Anyway, and with the samurai, they were very dedicated to honor and loyalty. But the problem was those that they were loyal to were not honorable. Yeah, the daimyos, their lords, right? So this point of loyalty was so fierce, but at some point they were asking the samurai to do horrible things, right? And to do stuff just in the service of power and maintenance of power and all this nonsense, right? And that's a terrible conflict, and it really corrupted, and well, it caused the samurai much anguish, right? And some left to become ronin because they couldn't do this. But the conflict between being loyal and acting with integrity and honor, so the bottom line is don't make promises that you cannot keep, right? So don't swear loyalty to somebody unless you know that they are going to be legitimate, yes, and they're going to them also act with integrity. But at least make your loyalty conditional. Yes, I'll be loyal and follow you as long as you act with integrity, right? I think this is a very key point. And so this is the storyline for Naruto also, that his goodness gets him into trouble. Now, this is a very important point. Yes, as participants of Way of Impeccability will tell you, right, that this is what happens for so often, and this concept of inappropriate application of goodness, it is it is a powerful concept and understanding that is foremost in their dictionaries of power, right? And many of them, most of them, have gotten into trouble in some way or another through inappropriate application of goodness. Yes, and this we see with Naruto, big time, big time. Yeah, so be aware of this, right? That we can get into trouble. Like, I said to one of the participants who struggled a lot in their lives, right? Difficult life. I said, what gets you into trouble is not your lessness, but your moreness. Change their life, right? Change their life. Just the simple one thing that I said, right? And I'm not saying this to boost me. I'm simply saying this as an awareness and understanding that we think when we would get into trouble, our life is difficult. We assume it's because of badness or lessness. No, no. It's mostly for most people that I know who are innately good people. They're trying to be good in an inappropriate way, right? Like the samurai, they're following that loyalty, right? And following the orders of their lord and doing whatever and being absolutely scrupulous in their loyalty, very disciplined in the application of their loyalty, right? This is their training. But you swore loyalty to a bad person, it's going to get into trouble, right? And same thing, like you want to be true in a marriage, and you married and you were committed and you took your vows, you took this all seriously. But the person you married is not the person that turns out to be. It turns out, that you married a BMN, you married a dreadful person, right? And they're all horrible and nasty. You can't stick to your marriage vows of being together forever when you're being beaten up every day. This is just not possible. So we have to really pay attention to the promises we make. Yes. And of course, now you're in trouble because you're sticking in the marriage and getting beaten up every day. Why? Because of your goodness. You don't want to believe the person is bad. You know, it's just the reality. See, it takes a while sometimes, and people get that message and they click afterwards, and then they do leave, right? But it's difficult, and then they feel guilty because of their goodness. Yeah, don't feel guilty. Yeah. So that's a big issue. It's a big issue, right? This inappropriate application of goodness, particularly making inappropriate promises, right? We have to be absolutely scrupulously careful with making promises, right? And don't make promises that you might not be able to keep. Yes, I say might not. Yeah, really think it carefully. I mean, then make your promise conditional. Say, yes, I promise to do this if at all possible. Okay, that's it. You see, it's very key because when you make a promise and when your promise is an intent and a commitment, you can get yourself into very deep trouble with this. Anyway, I'd really recommend, watching Naruto. It's a long series, like I said, it's 21 seasons of 25 episodes. They're only half an hour each, but still, it's just fabulous to watch. There's a lot of fun in it. Okay, there's all the ninja stuff and the law and the beasts yeah, but watch it for the character development. And the other characters are also there's a great range to them, right? And so whoever writes this knows people very well. And there's some typical characters, but there are also some unusual characters, and they will surprise you in their actions and their behaviors. But once you understand that the underlying core theme is nobility, nobility of soul, then it changes your view of the series, right? That's very fantastic. So I've actually added Naruto to my hashtags. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool indeed. All right, so just be aware. Just be aware. This is something fun. Just something that came up, and it's kind of like Venus thought for the day or theme of the day. Well, that's it for Naruto. All right, brilliant. Are you still here, Norma? Are you still here? Are you still here, Norma? Let me know. Let me know. All right. I want to know if you're still here, Norma, because I want to start reading the story from where we left off. Yeah. Type in chat there, Norma, in the next to the in the open chat where you said listening all agog. Well, maybe Norma left. All right. Sometimes connections drop or whatever. It happens. All right. So where we were yesterday is Illumina has gotten the four friends now to be on this particular spot on the branch, and they're waiting for the great wind to come, right? It's already there, but to the full development of it, right? And so she's waiting for something. They don't exactly know what. She said it's coming, right? And they're listening to the chimes in the meantime, just as the start of the chimes. But she says, and she's explaining how this all worked, right? How the chimes are not rung by the wind, but they're rung by the movement of the trees, right? Because electromagnet there. Anyway, that's it. Primarily, it's the chimes are sounded by the movement of the trees. And she says, and she explains how, the sort of technical aspects of it, how all the chimes are tuned and they work that the sound can come from all different sounds and there's movement of sound, right? And the sound, that's not just that you're hearing sounds all around you. No, that the sound kind of moves across, like stereo sound goes in, but, or surround sound, right? From all directions, but there's a movement to it, right? Like in surround sound, you might hear somebody from behind you and then they walk and they kind of walk through you and then they end up in front of you, that kind of stuff, right? But this is done for the joy of this movement, like the sound dances. Yes. So this is part of the design, the sound dancing. It's a very wonderful thing, right? Um, where are you, Norma? I want to know if you're here. I want to start reading the story. All right. Anyway, uh, so then she says, right? Uh, Now she says, that still isn't the most incredible part. ear enthused. They are set up in such a way that discordance is impossible. Discordance of not only the sounds, but also the movements. Only discordance is avoided. The rest is pure magic. Well, my definition of magic. What's that you always say about magic, Biella? I think Norma's here. Okay. Yeah. Okay. 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 Norma, comment in chat in the not in Messenger. Make the comments in next, in the comment section of the live. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yes. All right, Norma. All right. So are you listening? Because we're coming to a core part of the story about the trees now. Right? So I'm keen for you to hear this part because you enjoyed the story about the trees and the chimes, but now we're getting to the part where the trees are involved, right? The giant trees, right? So let me know that you're with me, that you're listening to this to what I'm sharing, right? You're in the open. I don't know if you're just messaging me or not. You did. You said they're listening all agog. Where you typed that? Let me know if you're still listening because you typed in Messenger now about the leaf, the tree. No, 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 no. Don't leave. No, 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 no. Don't leave. It has nothing to do with Zoom. That's just a Facebook thing. All right. Let me refresh this page and see if your messages are there because you say you left 3 messages. Oh, let's see. Not in Messenger. Make the comments in. There they are. All right. All right. I just refreshed. I see them now. Yes, I'm still here. All right. Okay. Good. 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 All right. So I see you now, Norma. I don't know why they don't update. Normally they come as you make them. They come live there. All right. So let me continue with the story here. Right. So she says only discordant Illumina. This is Illumina talking. Only discordance is avoided. The rest is pure magic. Well, my definition of magic. What's that you always say about magic, Bella? If you don't believe in magic, then for heaven's sake, get your head read and broaden your definition. Biella said, straight-faced. No, no, Illumina started to say, then caught on. Very funny, she said in the cutest way possible, although she was not trying to be cute. Biella loved to tease Illumina, a treat every time. Yes, yes, that, except without the getting your head read part. She shot Biella a glare that had them all laughing. But really, Illumina said, getting back to her topic, one of the new nobles involved in the technical aspects once explained it to me. He said the complexities of the variables started to approach what happens in our brains. And there's more. Illumina trailed off as if she had run out of energy, a muted twinkle in her eye. Ursula and Hela were now immersed in the sounds of the forest-wide symphony. Illumina moved slightly, indicating with her eyes the exact spot she wanted Biella on. They moved as if they were just making themselves comfortable. Ursula and Hela adjusted accordingly, maintaining conversational distance. Illumina nodded ever so slightly to herself, satisfied. She cocked her head, turning her face into the wind. It had picked up. Illumina raised both her arms theatrically, like an impish conductor. She put tension into her arms, as if she was restraining some incredible force. Her arms quivered, her face rapt with concentration. Biella stared, fascinated. She had been here many times with Illumina, but this was new to her. Ursula and Helen noticed Biella's surprise and interest. Their fascination heightened. Illumina strained against the invisible force. One moment. Don't go, Norma. Don't go. You there. You there. You there. I see your comments. I see your comments. I see all three. Just stay. Just stay. It's all good. It's all good. It's all good. I'm very comfortable, Norma. Everything is wonderful. I just had to refresh the page, so there's not a problem. Yeah, I see your comments. You wrote there. Dear Syl, I can still see you, hear you, and see my comments, right? So good, good. I just had to refresh the page. This Facebook being a bit slow. So all is good. All is good. All is good. All is good. Yeah, yeah. No, 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 no. Stay, Norma. Stay, 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 stay. All right. Okay. Are you listening to the story, Norma? Just I want to read the story and I want you to hear this part. So please stay. You are, yes. So just stay. All right. Illumina strained against the invisible force, her head cocking to one side, then the other. It seemed the force was somehow connected to something she was listening to or for. It's coming, she whispered fiercely, her eyes closed in rapt attention. Her legs trembled and shook. It's coming, she said louder, her entire body fibrillating under the strain. It's coming, she shouted so loudly some of the nearby chimes responded. She shook so fiercely it seemed she would get whipped away by the unseen forces any second. Biella was spellbound, utterly enchanted. It's here! Illumina yelled with such power Biella almost took a step back. Illumina raised her arms, stretching mightily, as high as she could above her. Then she crashed her arms down with all her might. At that exact moment, the mightiest of mighty deep sonorous booms resounded across the forest from all sides. The sound so deep and powerful. The sound so deep and powerful. I'll read on in a moment. No, no, no. All good, all good. No, all good, all good. Uh, the sound so deep and powerful, it literally rocked them where they stood. Illuminia was spent, exhausted, but again she cocked her head. Once more! This time she swirled, raising her arms high, straining with every fiber of her being, and again whipped her arms down. And again the incredible sounds of the great chimes rung out, shaking their bodies. She shivered with joy as the sounds found her being. She vibrated gloriously to their sound. Let go! Illuminia urged them, her eyes still closed. She laid her head back, arms wide, and let go. It could clearly be seen in her body. All tension flowed out. A marvel she could stand it all. So entranced were the friends, they followed suit without thinking. Feel, don't listen, Illuminia urged. They did so. This part Biella had experienced before. She gave herself over to the forest, to the feel of it, the rhythm of it, the vibration of it. She heard the chimes, all of them, from the tiniest, faintest, delicate tinklings to the large, deep, deep, powerful, bone-vibrating thunder of the bass chimes. These were delicate now compared to earlier, as if they were simply filling in the pauses in between. Between the singing of the giant chimes, they sounded again, multiple deep, long, melodic, sonorous notes. The start had been near them. The sounds, no, song. It was more a short phrase of song than sounds. The song was picked up by another of the giant trees to their left. They could feel the branch sway in that direction as a mighty gust swirled. The great wind bouncing off the mountain, creating complex eddies, added to the symphony of expression. The wind was not as much fast as it was powerful, like it had substance. Now the giant chimes to their right responded in song, picking up the forest song, passing it along, adding to it. The song moved on deeper into the great trees. They heard the other great trees adding to it. The song grew with each great tree it encountered, spreading in compounding waves through the forest. Ripples splitting off from the main song, rippling back towards them. These in turn picked up by the smaller chimes, delightfully adding their own accompaniment to the great song. Back and forth went the great song, the great tree seeming to add and respond with a will, adding to the song on some occasions when it came by, leaving it on others. The great wind flowed through the forest, its effect only on the physical movement of the trees now, as its own sound through them, and its own sound through them. The chimes no longer responded directly to the wind, or it seemed to the movement of the trees. Their movements were now aligned, flowing with the great song. The song now had its own life, its own force and power, fed by the great trees, who breathed into the song. They sighed into the song. They drank the song. They responded, echoed, added, embellished, all through the deep, deep sounds of the great chimes. the smaller giants enhancing in accompaniment the magnificently, profoundly awe-filled voices of the giant trees. The song moved quicker across the giant forest. It swelled, building, moving in giant waves of sound, physically moving the leaves and small branches it passed. The great waves were moving first away from them, then closer. Gradually, the friends had become the epicenter. The song intensified, so loud and huge now. Everything else was silent by comparison, magnificently beautiful, as if all the emotions of the giant trees were finally released after having been pent up for ages. But it was pent up love, for it was an enormous song of love. The waves of sound moved faster, each time coming closer and closer to their spot of honor. They felt a deep, deep rumbling from below. It moved upward along the giant trees, in unison to the giant waves of sound now closing in on them, with each increasing crescendo to the great song. Then great rumbling and then a great rumbling and the great song hit them. Time collapsed. They vibrated in place. They literally had no control. The great song enveloped them. They were in its heart, on the exact spot of a magnificent standing wave of sound, fed by the songs from all the great trees. All had joined in. The sound shivered the very air around them, fed melodiously by the giant trees. As each added their particular love to the great song, they were singing to the earth. A love so deep, so loving, the love could be felt all the way down into the very core of the earth, deep, deep, deep through the massive, deep roots of the great trees. The great song completely enveloped the four friends. Now, no thinking now, only feeling. Even if they wanted, any thought near impossible, as the electromagnetic field created on their spot acted as a thought dampening field. The effect on the four women beyond description. They were pure feeling now, feeling the love of the great trees, their love for the earth, their love for the wind, for the birds, the animals, the insects, the rain, the people who lived in the trees, everything they could feel, including love for the four of them. They felt the individual parts, though it was one whole. The song was so beautiful, so exquisite. It moved them so much. All they could do to bear the immense beauty and love of it was yell. They yelled at the tops of their voices with an abandon like never before. No thought involved. No thought involved. Their bodies responding to that deep, deep love that kept coming and coming through the great, great song. Time was nowhere. They experienced infinity, for they were pure feeling within the great song. They lived through cycles of growth, emerging as young saplings, some falling away to join those that remained from below, adding themselves back in again. Each time, as more fell away, the remaining became stronger, to merge finally into the great trees. They felt the guidance of the sentience, the loving care of the great balance, the deep joy at the addition to their strength by the way the humans guided their growing. The love intensified. It did not seem possible, but it did. The sentience did what was not known, what was incomprehensible. The great trees sang of the watching, of the waiting. Then overwhelming joy flooded through the tears, the joy of the joyous great day. The great day, the great wind came again. They could feel the immense love of the great trees for the great wind. But on the great day there was a difference. Everything had changed on that momentous day. On that day, the great trees could sing. They had been given great voice. They had had small voice amongst their roots. That's how they guided the young ones, nourished each other, directed each other to the water and food they needed. That was how they shared. But on the great day, their little voices became great voices, voices they could feel. great voices that responded to the voices of others. At first they had been clumsy in their singing. They did not yet understand. But over the many, many years they had learned. With each great wind they added to the song of them. Now it was a song of pure love and beauty. They sang and they sang and they sang. They would sing and sing and sing as long as the great wind moved them to sing. Okay. You enjoying the story? There's a little pause here in the story, Norma. So I hope you're listening. I hope you're enjoying the story. Right? I love this part. I just love this fact that these giant trees can through these additions of the chimes to their movements and corresponding and activated by the great wind. Uh, that they can express themselves, right? And they can communicate in a more profound way than just through their roots, through the little voice, right? It's very limited communication. So this is for me, it's a massively profound wonderful, wonderful thing. I absolutely just love it like crazy. I love this concept, this idea of these giant trees being able to being able to sing, yes, and being able to express themselves, but in a way that when you if you think of the whole way this is done, right? The only time the giant chimes are sounded is when the great wind blows, which moves the trees so much that their roots move, and the giant chimes are connected to their roots, right? Which is where their little voice is. So now you get this bigger voice, but also because these chimes are so huge, right? I mean, they're made out of great big massive sequoia-sized trees, right? Some maybe even bigger than that, made of huge trees all across the agglomeration. It's not just the sound, but the vibration caused by that sound, right? So they are communicating physically through the sound and the vibration, right? And they are able to communicate with each other in a more direct way. And also in through the roots, you essentially just communicate to those that are right next to you, right? And then they communicate with others, and you can't really communicate with somebody at the other end of the forest, right? But with a great voice, they are able to do this, yeah. And this it changes everything, of course, right? And now they can also sing as a forest and as individuals, right? And this is just the greatest possible gift that they could ever have imagined or ever be bestowed on them, right? And be given, right? And it's just the profoundness of this. It is, I mean, it's hard to imagine, you know, I mean, when you lived so long and you've lived so long without this, and suddenly you do get it, this is unbelievably huge, right? I mean, this is a massive evolutionary leap for them, yes. And at first they struggled with this expression because they had such a rudimentary expression, so they had to learn. And, over the many, many years, it's a very long time that since this was put into place, they learned. And of course, they didn't just learn how to express themselves, but they also had to evolve that, to evolve awareness and consciousness. Yeah. So it's very important. One moment. So it's a very, very huge deal, right? It just when you think of this in the totalness of it all, right? This is a very, 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 very big deal. Just massive in terms of just this interaction, right? I mean, You could say yes, but they're interfering with the evolution of the trees. Yeah, maybe so. But at the same time, this is not something that's idly done and not just done for their own fun and joy and benefit. It's through attunement and through appropriateness, etc. Right? And of course, the giant trees, they are thrilled and happy and joyful beyond imagining at this moreness, right? So this idea of not interfering with the evolution of others, this is a misguided notion that comes from Star Trek, right? In the Prime Directive, or as I call it, the Crime Directive. Yeah, yeah. So, we evolve slowly simply because there's lots of trial and error, and you go through dead ends and all this, right? It's just a hit and miss process for the most part. Yeah, and there's much de-evolution also. We don't pay attention to that, but you can watch it in people. Yeah. Uh, this is a fascinating thing to pay attention to. You can see how people, if you know somebody long enough, you'll see sometimes how they go backwards, right? How they devolve. They don't evolve, they devolve. And this is very important to pay attention to. So we must be very careful about this idea. Yes. And when you think of, well, how did you evolve? How did you have leaps in your evolution? By typically connecting to something that somebody else has shared, right? I don't have to every time when there's a maze in front of me. I don't every time have to go through the entire maze to get out the other end of it. If somebody's done all that work before and they say, okay, well, you go left, left, right, and then you're out. Okay, all right, thank you. And I go through it, right? I don't have to experience the effort of going through that. I've gone through other mazes before. All it does is take time. I'm not learning to go through a maze by repeating the process. Yeah, it doesn't help me. There's no value to it whatsoever, right? None. So why do I have to do this over and over again, right? If somebody else has done this and they are you know and they're willing to share this, you know, each maze, it's the same abstract process. But if I can find out how to go, it saves me a lot of time. This is the magic of sharing, right? In that we share our particular path through the maze, and it saves others from that effort of going through it. This is a big deal. It's a very, very big deal. And this is how we evolve collectively. Yes. And this is why libraries are so critically huge and important. If you look at the evolution of humanity, yeah, yeah. One second. Okay. So this idea that you have to leave people to evolve on their own, it's just rubbish. And in the concept of, or at least in the context of Star Trek. This is absolutely horrible, which is why I call it the crime directive. Now, imagine, right? So you come across a planet that is, let's say in a pre-technological age, unsophisticated planet, right? And superstition rules and all this. What happens when the Ferengi come by or some other unscrupulous culture that's focused on, just greed, right? Which is the Ferengi culture, greed, accumulation of wealth, right? And they don't really have much morality when it comes to greed, right? It's like uh, whoever cheats the best wins and is seen as wonderful, right? That's it. That's really the culture, right? So when a culture like that comes across a naive, superstitious culture, exploiting them is totally easy and just like it's no problem, right? They set themselves up as gods or whatever, and they just exploit the hell out of all these cultures. So when you leave it and you don't interfere, you're leaving them ripe and vulnerable to the interference of those who aren't scrupulous, right? So you have to, absolutely. That's why it changes. At least in my story, I've got a whole long, evolved story, very complex story about the ship's philosopher, like you got the ship's counselor and the ship doctor. Well, bring on the ship's philosopher, which now changes this whole policy, right? And they come from the future into the past to change this. Anyway, it's a wonderful story. It's very involved, but the core point is that from the context of like in Star Trek, or it's an agglomeration as well, right? That you have a moral responsibility to share. You can't be directing evolution, but to share choices, which now, when it's self-evident, the obvious choices of moreness, well, you're giving people choices to choose that more. They don't have to, but they can, right? So it's your responsibility to share and thereby to assist evolution, right? Because this is what the universe is all about, right? Enhancement and development of awareness, which is evolution, right? So it's a very, very, very big deal. This very big, and I feel very strongly about this when you think about it. That our responsibility to share is a big one because that's how we've learned, right? And how could you not pass this on? How can you not share? Which is exactly why I share in the lives now. Sharing is a huge deal. It's a moral responsibility, in my opinion. Yes. Very big deal. Very big deal. Very big deal. Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. I love sharing. I love sharing. I love sharing. And that's why I enjoy it when Norma's here, because I love sharing with Norma. It's a great joy. Great joy. I don't know if you're still here or not, Norma. I'm not sure. But anyway, I love sharing with you, Norma. I love sharing with you. Love, love, love sharing with you. Yeah. All right, brilliant. So now there's a little extra part here which I'm going to read, Norma. If you hear the conclusion of this, right? So that was the first part of the chapter. There's that little asterisk to say, time passes a little bit. And, it's not like a new chapter where there's usually typically a bigger jump in time. I see some authors don't do that. They just start a new chapter randomly in the middle of stuff. And I think that's maybe just where they were writing. And then which doesn't make sense to me. To me, chapters have a cohesion to them. But anyway, that's me. There are no rules for writing, whatever works. All right, so here we continue. Eventually, or so it seemed, the great wind eased. The four friends found themselves in relative silence. After that, anything would seem quiet. In actuality, it had been minutes only. But the timelessness of the experience would forever say otherwise. It took them much longer to compose themselves than the experience. They were breathing in long, deep breaths, as if in deep, as if in a deep, deep sleep. Yeah, I gotta just edit here a little bit. As if in a deep, deep sleep, a phenomenal feeling, like what breathing was in its essence. No tension in their bodies other than what was critically needed, so minuscule as to be essentially unnoticeable. The effect magical. They felt impossible. Illumina first to speak, their minds coming back online. They felt connected to the forest, to the giant trees, a bond they would have forever. Actually, I want to add in here. They felt connected to the forest, to the giant trees, to the earth, to each other, a bond they would have forever. Their minds' innate need for understanding now kicked in. Illumina held up her hand tenderly. I will explain, she said gently, setting them at ease. Biella had through the experience before, but not like this. She had some questions of her own. Look, Illumina said, pointing to the top of the joined trunk of the nearest great tree, the nearest giant tree. Great tree, giant tree. Oh, ah, okay. This is the only time one can see them clearly. The vibrations have knocked away most of what usually covers them. The great chimes, there, hanging from underneath the great crown of what at first appeared to be a group of large tree trunks. Oh, were what? Sorry, hanging from underneath the great crown were what at first appeared to be a group of large tree trunks. But then the arrangement could be seen. They would ordinarily have been very large trees, and had been on the worlds they had come from. The great chimes were made from the hollowed out trunks of these large special trees. Each giant tree has quite a few of these, Illumina explained. Part of what we experienced, the little voice. It's a natural thing. In most forests, there is rudimentary communication between the trees. What we felt all happens naturally. The new nobles simply connected the great chimes to that system. They set it up so that when the great wind comes, the movements of the roots sound the chimes, sound the giant chimes. Not the other chimes. The intermediate chimes are sounded by the branches and the leaf, the smaller branches, right? And the trunk even moving, right? So these are connected to the roots, though. They just hang up there because that's the only place to really put them, right? Uh, the movements of the roots sound the giant chimes, for that is the only time the giant trees truly move sufficiently to affect their roots. They translated all into the giant chimes. It's an it's all incredibly complex. Hang on one second. They translated all this into the giant chimes. It's all incredibly complex, but nothing truly magical about it, except the will to actually do it. Illumina smiled in wonder. She loved the new noble so. The great winds are a particularly dense wind, as you probably felt. They don't come around often, a few times a year at most, even skipping some years. It is why I postponed the free chat. No one can say for sure when the great winds will come. This one has come very suddenly, fortuitously so for us, as we were already in position to experience the epitome. This is the magic just that they live with, right? It just happened to be coincidentally that Biella and Ursula and Hyla were close to that epicenter spot, right? They were right there. And this is just the luck of things, right? And this so often happens. I've experienced this many times in my life. A fortuitousness that is beyond logical, beyond statistical probability, especially when you experience multiple times. Yes, to experience this once or twice or three times or four times or five times or even 10 times. Okay, you can still say, well, somebody's got to be the outlier. But when you get to 100 and beyond, then you have to change your understanding of statistics, right? It's no longer in the realm of statistics. I have been monitoring and studying them for many years. I gave up on the scientific part of it. It was too inaccurate. I started to trust my intuition. I became more and more attuned. Then I learned that dance. Illumina laughed with joyful abandon, giving Biella a teasing fun look. Well, I didn't have to do it quite like that. I was exaggerating tremendously. A little performance for theatrical effect, and mainly to tease Biella. She chuckled delightfully. I had her quite puzzled. It isn't easy to do, she said conspiratorially to Ursula and Hala. Biella laughed delightedly. Yes, I was mesmerized and completely confused. It was so exquisite. You had me totally fooled. No, entranced by your wonderful magic. She laughed happily, fully appreciating Illumina. You mean there was no invisible force? Ursula asked incredulously. Nope. Illumina grinned mischievously. I was hamming it up for all I was worth. She giggled deliciously. But it is a fantastic workout, an amazing dance in itself. Next time you try it, next time you try it, and you'll see there is a magical moreness to it, as there always is to that which comes via attunement. Illumina was enjoying herself tremendously. It was seldom she had been able to tease Biella so extensively, and when combined with a magnificent experience. And there's more. Of course, Biella and Ursula said simultaneously in what was their refrain. Nora and Akia had started this, and it had caught on. There is always more. They chorused together. Excuse me. They chorused together with big grins. Illumina had their interest. I do have to concentrate and tune in fully to my intuition, to an inner feeling, an inner rumbling, a minuscule echo of what we felt, a kind of tiny, tiny, faint vibration from the earth. That dance helps for that. I have been able to pinpoint where the epicenter will be before. It's never in the same place. Ah, this needs to be added. It's never in the same place. Otherwise, we would have a crowd here. There were indeed small groups all across the great branches. What we experienced will be felt all over the great forest with varying degrees of intensity. I have been able to figure out the epicenter, or I should say, it is a knowing rather. When I get a hint of a great wind approaching, and I am certain it is definitely coming here, then I just know where the epicenter is going to be. That is, if I am fully in attunement with all that is involved. No easy feat to accomplish, I have to tell you. The timing is a different matter. The dance is so I had some leeway with the timing. And besides, you have to with that timing. And besides, you have to admit, it was most exciting when I seemingly made the huge sound happen with my very arms. Yes, Illumina giggled merrily. Yes, it was fantastic, Ayla said, Ursula nodding in agreement. I thought you were some high priestess of the trees or something, Ayla added. It was very impressive. Thank you. It was an exquisite experience, no less diminished now. And, prompted Ursula, feeling there was something more. Illumina said with fun. Yes, I had another goal in mind. I don't know so much about the two of you. Well, Ursula, you a bit, I suspect, maybe. But Ursula, I know for sure, can be a bit much in her head. I wanted to move her. And, well, you two also. I wanted to get her completely out of herself for a change. She grinned at Biella. It worked great. I had her so confused she didn't know what to think, which effectively crashed her mind's operating system. A great gift when it can be accomplished. enough to allow the magic of the song to fully take over. Wasn't it, Biella? Illumina asked with ever the tiniest trace of potential doubt, that ever-present humility of the new nobles expressing itself. They never took anything for granted, no matter how sure they may seem. Yes, indeed, it helped tremendously. I experienced the great song the way you related to me, you did. Thank you, Angel. Biella hugged Illumina in an embrace of love, their friendship something special indeed. What a fantastic business, Biella said. You were magnificent. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Ayla and Ursula hugged Illumina as well, thanking her. No trace of any hesitancy or doubt of appropriateness remained. That was all gone. They were friends now like few would ever be. It was if Hayler's friendship gesture had taken on a life of its own, had become magnified and incorporated into them by their shared experience of the great song. For not only had they felt the trees' feeling of them, but also through the giant trees they had felt each other, an intimacy like no other. Did I leave anything out? Illumina asked. They shook their heads. Good, for we are in for a small treat. A little wind is coming, much like an aftershock. The little wind will set off the great chimes, but only as chimes now. The little wind is not strong enough to move the giant trees all the way to their roots. But the music. All right, so just by way of capital R reading, uh, this whole section here, Illumineer's explanation, right? It is again, it is showing what it is to be a new noble, right? And a different the differences, right? Because yes, as we've heard from Biella, Biella is very thoughtful and able to express this, right? So Biella is an elucidator. She elucidates particularly well, right? This is a skill she has, a skill she's honed and refined and worked on and developed, right? Illumina knows a bit more directly, right? She's not that verbally acute as Biella is, right? So you see this in her here, how what she calls intuition. Again, when if she were to go in a bit deeper, she would say to you, like I explained yesterday or the day before, about intuition being an implication chain, just very compressed in time. But this is how she works. She works with feeling and right. So she arrives at the same endpoint, but comes at it from a different angle, right? And also, Illumina is not similar to Biella. For Biella, much of the conceptions and understandings and applications they come because she's so fully into it, and because of the way just she's always been and her childhood and everything, she comes at too much of it a lot quicker than most others, right? And this is a big difference between Illumina and Biella. Some of the things that Biella explains are kind of new to Illumina still, right? So Illumina is uh, Biella is in a different space to most of the new novels, and we see this difference here now. Now, it's not a negative difference. There's no comparativeness. They're not saying, "Oh, you more advanced or less advanced." No, none of that is part of their culture. They just appreciate each other. It is what it is. That's all there is to it, right? And each follows a different path. That's all it is, right? And sometimes, you may be going directly, and then you go on a detour, and then that makes things a bit slower, but it's all necessary. At the end of the day, you're all going to arrive at the same place. And then when you look back, you know, when you're looking at even in your own life now, right? If you think back to something that happened 20 or 30 or 40 years ago or whatever, and you say, well, it took me, well, let's say it took you a month to figure out. Well, and somebody says, well, yeah, I hear you. It took me 6 weeks to figure out. What difference does it make? Yeah. See what I mean? Or in your own thing, you say, well, maybe I could have gotten there in 2 weeks instead of a month. It's irrelevant in the fullness of time. Those little time distance differences don't matter. And when we understand this is part of our evolutionary path, then sometimes you go on detours and it seems like you're a little bit behind, no, you're not, right? Because later on somebody else is going to go on a detour, and then at the end you're all going to be in the same place, and it doesn't matter who got there first. What difference does it make? Or who gets there last? You're all there. And when you look back in time to say, wow, we all arrived in our destination, and does it matter when you're there? You're looking over the longest time. No, it doesn't matter who got there first or last. It's not a competition, right? It's to get there is the point, and to enjoy the journey is also the point. Somebody may have rushed to get there and get there first. And I see this in gaming all the time. People rush, and it's like some great accomplishment to finish like new content first, and to do it as quickly as possible. And it's like, I'm like, dude, think about it. You're playing to have fun. And now that you've done it so quickly, you just lessened your time to have fun, right? So from the new nobility point of view, they take as long as they can to traverse the path, because traversing the path is the joy. They're not really particularly interested in getting to the destination, because the joy is in the journey, right? uh, did I leave anything out? Illumina asked. They shook their heads. Ah, good. Now they're getting to the small chimes and the music. Biella, Ursula, Hyla, and Illumina were entranced once more by the deep, sonorous booming of the chimes. The way they overlapped, resonated with each other, flowing and responding to each other. The music of it was superb. These are not the giant chimes. These are just the bass chimes. Flowing and responding to each other, the music of it superb, the smaller chimes sounding their delightful accompaniment. All across Tree City, the joyful and melodious sounds could be heard, refreshing and renewing, a rain of glorious sound. Uh, Suddenly, there was a rapid gonging. All right, I'm going to skip this last part. My voice is a bit sore now. Where it's now the part about Dream Deer comes, and the little fun that she has, and then where this the gesture that Biella puts out to the innocence of the world. Yeah, 'cause it's quite long, and my throat is actually sore for some unknown reason. So my nose is all blocked too, as you might hear. Why, I don't know. Anyway, I thank you, Norma, for being here. This is too wonderful. I really enjoyed reading the story, and I enjoy that you're enjoying the tree story. That's just marvelous and wonderful. Very, very cool. All right. So on that note, if you are listening to this point and you don't remember, you didn't hear it on Sunday, I do recommend going back and just going towards the end of the story, to where they're listening to the little chimes, and where Dream Deer comes into it, right? And maybe in the comments, underneath it will say there. No, not in the comments, not on Facebook, but if you listen to it on YouTube or on Substack, there's a summary of the points, and then you can see the timestamp next to that, right? So you can kind of get the clue of where to jump in, because this is a very powerful point of the part of the story, this gesture that first Biella makes to the innocents, and then Illumina, Ursula, and Hyla follow, and it's very profound, it's very deep, very moving story, very marvelous, and again, it shows this deeper intent to nobleness that is inherent in all of them, right? Hyla is just discovering this now. Um, and Ursula has already discovered this, right? In the earlier chapter called Being Noble, where she really articulates this in a most incredibly brilliant and excellent way, right? And here we're seeing an exemplification of it, right? In action, put into action, practice. And very beautiful, very, very beautiful. All right. On that note, unless you have anything to add, Norma, any comments, Norma? I'm not sure if Norma is still here or not, but in case, yeah, keen to hear from you. Keen to hear from you, Norma. Keen to hear from you. I'll give it a second. And I got up late too, so I got stuff to do. I'm a bit behind. I woke up, and then and then It's like, man, I could sleep a bit more. I don't know if I actually did sleep a bit much, but anyway, I got up very late. So very interesting. Just who knows how things work. All right. All right. I hope you're listening still, Norma, and I hope you heard the end of that. It's just fun, this idea, this concept of, well, first of all, you got the giant trees, just one giant tree, like as high as a mountain. I mean, that's something incredible on its own. But there's this whole forest of them, right? And they're all interconnected, right? They're not just standalone trees; they literally connected, right? And then also that they have community and they have a collective consciousness, right? As well as individuality. And that's very much how it is in actuality, right? You can go look up this thing about the rudimentary communication by the roots of trees. Yeah? I forget what it's called, but it's something that you can go and look up. It's a scientific thing. It's proven and known, and yeah, it's not very much communicated because I think that we collectively as a species, via the superiority paradigm, much does not get emphasized when it's taken away from humans being special, right? Well, the trees are doing something that's very special that humans don't have, this collective communication and connectivity, right? So, well, yes, somebody discovered it and it's a big deal to that scientist and in that community, but it doesn't get picked up by the media and in general. Why? Because of the superiority paradigm. Doesn't want to hear about moreness because in the comparative logic any moreness of something else makes me less, and no, that's horrible, that's the worst, that's terrible, no, can't have that. It's just dreadful. So uh, yeah, let me refresh again, Norma. Yeah, it's just Facebook. I don't know why they do this. Some days, typically when you comment uh on the live, I see the comments right away. As you make it, you post, and I see it right away. Why this now? Today, the comments are delayed. I don't know. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of comments from Norma. Yeah. So it's not that I don't know you, yeah, Norma. It's just that they didn't refresh in real time. I don't know why. It's just a quirk and a peculiarity. Yeah. It's just of Facebook. Yeah. That's very strange. This kind of bothersome too, because I really love seeing your comments, Norma, and I really make an effort to pay attention to them. All right. Well, in future, Norma, if you make a comment and I don't respond to it in a reasonably short period of time, then message me and let me know, hey, I'm commenting and I'm not seeing it. And then I'll refresh. Or you can just say refresh in Messenger and I'll refresh. I mean, unless it's some new thing that eBay has this, uh, which would be bothersome because it's very nice to see those real-time comments come through. That's very odd, very odd. All right. Anyway, I'm glad that you're here and you were listening and you heard the whole story. Oh, this is wonderful. Yeah. Wonderful, Norma. All right. On that note, I shall say goodbye. Bye bye, Norma. Bye bye, Norma. I'm glad you were sorry I didn't see them again. I can't really say sorry because, well, it has nothing to do with me. I was looking for them, paying attention to your comments, but Facebook wasn't showing them in real time. I had to refresh to see them. So very odd. But anyway, on that note, I shall say goodbye and we'll leave it here. And I will see you on Sunday for the next chapter, which is called The Boino and the Anomalies. I think, is that what it's called? Oh gosh, now I forget now. Hang on, maybe it's not called that. Maybe that's the last chapter. Yeah, oh yeah, it is called Boino and the Anomalies. Yeah. So we meet a new character, Boino, as his name. Yeah. So very cool. Very cool. All right. See you on Sunday. See you on Sunday. All right. Bye bye everybody. Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye bye. End meeting. End meeting.